At the end of February, an absolute majority, 65% of the respondents in Russia, believed that Putin's decision to conduct the so-called special operation in Ukraine was the right. A week after the invasion, there were even more of these people, plus 3%. This is shown by the survey conducted by the Public Opinion Foundation. Even though business has begun to leave Russia massively, prices are rising and the ruble is rapidly falling daily.
I support Putin. It should have been done a long time ago. My opinion, to protect the Russians, I support it all. Putin is probably a wise man and knows what he is doing.
My opinion, he did right, because the West has gone completely insane. It does a hell of a sin, says all kinds of lies about Russia, and nobody is bombing Kyiv. I don't believe it.
Yet many Russians do not change their mind, despite journalists showing them pictures of bombed Ukrainian cities and completely destroyed homes of civilians.
Of course, I took it very hard at first, because it's our brotherly people, but we are not responsible for it. The bridgehead was being prepared there, a whole generation was raised to hate Russia, the Russians for many years. Ukraine was being prepared for an attack on Russia. I'm absolutely sure of that. The nationalist battalions and Nazis, they didn't disappear. Actually, Russia is not bombing. It is getting rid of people who have seized power in dishonest way and are terrorizing their own citizens. They are not bombing. They are targeting the wreckers.
Why attack if our people are there? All of our people are there, Ukraine, Belarus. But it happened. I don't know. That's not what they say on the news. I don't hear Putin having deployed troops specifically for war.
And they don't hear it because 3/4 of all Russians learn about the war from the news on state-owned Russian TV channels. That's why they repeat all the narratives the propagandists tell them practically round the clock.
They are for war. For example, not because they are for war, but because they think everyone is for war. Because it's such sort of proper trend, you know.
Notably, in the Rostov region of Russia neighboring Ukraine, far more residents interviewed by journalists are against the war. Either Coffins was that occupiers are more frequently transported there, or more truthful information is received there.
To hell the war!
I am opposed to war, like all people, I guess. Nobody wants war. Everyone wants peace, I think.
People are dying. War has never brought anything good.
It is interesting that, according to the same survey of sociologists, the number of people who support the work of the government has increased by 1.5 times in recent weeks. And there were 10% less Russians who noticed rising food prices. And these results could have been received not as a result of falsification, only because the population began to watch more TV in chase of news about the war. And there it never gets tired of telling people that everything is fine in Russia and that prices for goods are not rising.
If there is something Putin has been very successful at, it is zombifying his audience, and the nation is in a completely defective, monstrous, morally broken, intellectually degraded state. It is necessary to put brains and souls into place, and the Son of Dragons says it's hard work, worse than embroidery, hard and lengthy. It is important to start it as soon as possible.
Another possible reason for growing loyalty to the government's actions is that many more negatively minded people have begun to refuse to answer psychologists' questions. This directly affects the results, and it might be related to the recently adopted Russian law on punishment for disseminating allegedly untrustworthy information about the actions of the Russian military. Up to 15 years in prison can be imposed for information deemed untruthful by the authorities.
We live in such a country, it is better not to comment unnecessarily. I am not going to comment, after all, I work here. I don't want to go into the woods tomorrow. Why did Putin give the order to attack Ukraine? I somehow don't want to tell that, because we might be in danger for that. I'd rather refrain.
Actually, it was not the level of support for Putin's actions that changed, but the price for the non-support. Since in such a situation the purpose of propaganda was not only to change people's mind, but also to silence them. To voice their opinions, even the elite are often scared.
Even the elites have difficulty, accepting the new monstrous reality they are facing, but they understand very well that any statement or step against it is the end of a career, the end of a prosperous life, maybe even the end of life itself, because Putin is most scared of and despises and destroys those people he considers betrayers.
Political analysts believe that international sanctions will result in a daily decrease in the number of Russians who agreed to live in a fantasy world distorted by television. After all, nothing clears the brain like a blow to the pocket and the empty fridge. Reported by Roman Smoler, Natalia Voloshina, UATV News.